Hello, everybody. This is Srinivasa from itsdiff Academy. It's a great pleasure and honor to host these leadership sessions, career sessions. We get lots of career advice and learn from industry stalwarts, people who have been there, done this. And today, the topic is on empowering the women in tech community. And we are going to welcome Dr. Marily Nika. She's based in San Francisco. She's an AI product manager with over 10 years of experience. So let's first welcome her and give our greetings, and then I'll talk more about her accomplishments and also make an interesting conversation to learn from her journey and how challenging it was. And also we'll be talking about her accomplishments. So first, let me extend a very warm welcome to Marily Nika. Hello, Marily. Welcome.
Hello, Pri. Thank you so much for hosting.
Yeah. And I always wanted to say Dr. Marily Nika. All right. So let me just read a couple of great, accomplishments and a brief bio on you, right? She's worked for large tech companies such as Google and Facebook, and is also actively involved in the startup scene as she serves in the advisory board of 4 startups. Marily holds a Ph.D. in Computer Science and Epidemiology from Imperial College London, and is also a part-time teaching fellow at Harvard Business School's analytics program. And that's where I got to know of Marily. And she taught our product management course, and it was very interesting. And it also supports us in lots of data analytics, the challenges and the competition that we participate. And as I said, she runs a series of product management at HBAP. Also completed a diploma of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Stanford, and delivered 3 TED Talks and has received international recognition. That's wonderful, Dr. Marily, and including the Women of the Year 2018 and Women in Science and Engineering, which is a WISE. This is a great influence award in 2015 for empowering the women in tech community in various ways. And so let's talk to her and see how the journey has been, and what can we learn, and what's her advice generally on the career, and what's happening in the industry. So, Dr. Marily, once again, this is Srinivasa for itsdiff Academy, welcoming you on behalf of our fans and supporters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are gonna make me blush by writing this, so thank you. I really appreciate it, and I think it's such a great initiative. What you're doing, I have watched a couple of podcast episodes, if you will, and it's just very inspiring. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So very impressive profile. And so I was just wondering, there's so much to ask you as questions, but let's start on your journey. How was it? Was it super challenging? I'm sure. And what can we learn from you?
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna take you back quite a few years ago when I was 5 or 6 years old. Sure. Essentially, so I grew up in Greece. I'm originally Greek, and I've always loved computers, and I just played computer games and enjoyed it. And one day I discovered this book my brother had that was about basic coding, and I didn't understand what it was. I opened it and I literally just copied and pasted things. Well, actually typed in coding commands on an old Amstrad machine we had, and I hit a button, and then these letters started dancing, and we could see some colors changing, and I just got fascinated. And ever since, I was just hooked with computers. I loved them. I learned how to code. On every chance I got during school, I would develop silly little applications, but I just loved being able to talk to computers. Mm-hmm. So that's when I decided that I wanted to study it and study computer science. When I was 18, the system in Greece is a bit different, so you can't really decide what to study. It's really strange. I actually ended up studying economics, and it was great. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't computer science. So I was bummed, even though I did find things to love in my undergrad degree. But I met someone. It was a 25-year-old student. She was doing a master's in computer science, and she said, why are you sad? You can study computer science. There are conversion programs available. And that's when my eyes opened up and I realized that, oh, wait, okay, so I can finish my undergrad. I can do really well, get a good grade, and then I can apply to a conversions master's degree in order to study computer science. So that's what I did. And I joined Imperial College London Department of Computing. It was an amazing program.
Mm-hmm.
It started from scratch. I learned everything about coding. And I ended up doing a PhD with the same advisor that I had in my master's thesis. And it was just fascinating. It was amazing. So these are the good things. Okay, let's talk about the bad things. There were only 5 women out of 50, 100 students. And I've always felt like I was a minority, right? So I was at the corner with other people. If I were to join a group coursework session, I would be asked twice, like, hey, what can you offer? And I was wondering, I was like, wait, are you asking everyone that, or are you just asking me this?
Why is the partiality, right?
Exactly. So that's when I realized, okay, something needs to be done. There needs to be a change. And what I did is I created a Women in Tech group on my university. And more and more people started joining. I think we were 70 people, then 100, then 200. And it was all women and allies of women that are studying computer science that were facing the same challenges, right? So we would have workshops, we would have talks, we would have just networking happy hours or coding challenges. And it was just amazing. It was wonderful. We got to inspire people. We got to go to schools to get the younger generation to study computer science. And it's just the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So after I graduated from my PhD, I realized that I wanted to keep doing this, to keep creating community and supporting each other in this world. So I co-founded, it was called the London Geekettes. It was a group in London. It was great. It was part of a 7,000 people global group. And we just kept having events and just talking to each other, understanding each other's jokes. It was great. After this, I discovered the product management world, and I met a lot of senior leaders in product management world, and they talked to me about this role. I just didn't know about it. And it essentially combines what happens in the backend, which is the technical side of things and technical innovation, and the business world in one. So it was just fantastic. Yeah, it's just a great.
No, it's very good. It looks like you had a mentorship kind of a supporting role somebody played. So that was very key, the way I see that. So, and also what you did. So I want to ask you about the mentorship there. The second follow-up on that is you absorbed it and you started giving back to the community by creating such a networking group where it's what might be started as like a social gathering, but you are able to exchange and like a peer learning, as we say in HBAP. Can you talk about that? How important was that for you when you are shaping up your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you grow up, you don't really know what's going on in the world, especially professionally, right? So you keep reading things online, but there are so many questions, and navigating the interviewing process or applying for jobs, everything. So everything seemed chaotic and scary until I got to meet a few key people in my life. So it was some were very, very senior, some were master students, some were like an aunt or a cousin or things like that. And I would just share my concerns, like, hey, I want to enter to join a company. What do I need to do? Or how do I learn a new programming language, things like that. They gave me key advice, and that key advice just ended up changing my life. For example, when I was about to start my PhD, it was a PhD student then. She reached out to me and she said, hey, there are scholarships available if you want to study this, and here's a link where you can find this information. So that was just key, because I went on that website, I applied to the scholarships, and I ended up getting a scholarship that changed my life, really. So mentorship is key. It's very, very important, and I am doing my best to give back to the community in the same way that I received mentorship. So I help the younger generation understand whether they want to pursue tech or not. I'm just giving them all the information. I'm not telling them what to do. And I am helping people that are in the same level as me, or I sometimes chat with more senior leaders. And when you engage in a mentorship session, it's actually a two-way mentorship. So sometimes you learn from your mentee, and the mentee learns from you. Obviously, it's just a reciprocal relationship, and it's just fantastic. And I encourage everyone to take part of it, because it's life-changing.
Yeah, it's like even at the executive level, there is always an executive coach. They are available, right? And
Yep.
it is at various part of the career. People have to reach out for some help from others, and that's very good, very, very impressive. So now I just wanted to get to the PhD part, because I love that. It's in the computer science, as you mentioned, right? And then could you touch on that? Like, how was it? How was the journey like there as well?
Yep. Let me tell you, it's not straightforward. And in some ways, it's easier than a master's. This is what I keep telling people. And I'll explain exactly what I mean. So when you do a PhD, you do research, right? So PhD is equal to some hypothesis you have that you want to explore and spend a good chunk of your student years exploring. So when I started, I knew I liked math, I liked computer science, but I also liked social networks. And I went to my advisor and I said, I like all these three things. How on earth do I combine them? And my advisor actually said, well, you can do a multidisciplinary topic as part of your thesis. And it's just great, because I got to combine epidemiology and computer science and data analytics. And I was able to explore to what extent you can apply epidemiological models on data from social networks and predict when content goes viral. And that was just fascinating, because I got to learn a lot about epidemiology, there's a lot of momentum right now in this field. And there was no dull moment. However, it was difficult because it's just an unexplored field and no one is going to do the work for you. So you know that if you didn't do work one day, this day would count backwards from the end. So you're the boss.
To haunt you later if you don't do it for yourself, right? Okay.
Exactly. So you're the boss of yourself. Your advisor is there to help and provide guidance, but no one is going to do the work for you. Whereas if you're doing a master's, I feel you have the exams, you have the coursework, which is different than doing the research. So I always recommend PhDs to people, especially if they haven't decided what they want to do when they graduate. But to me, it was the best thing I've ever done, and I'm so happy I did it.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that question is, are there a difference from an opportunity perspective for women in those? Because are there different challenges that women have to face to get into the PhD doctoral program, or is it pretty much the same thing? Question number one. And the follow-up question to that is, what are the general available support groups that are at our just made available through our networking that the women folks can tap into? So let's start with that. Yeah.
Of course. So eligibility criteria are the same. Obviously, there's no difference in the genders, which is great. So everyone can just go on the website and see what is required in order to be able to get admitted in a PhD program. And then when it comes to support, there are a lot of scholarships that are aimed to women that want to study computer science. The one I got was called Google Tech Makers. I encourage people to look it up. It's really, really great. It's for women that have been accepted in a program, a PhD program, or a master's, or an undergrad, actually, that have a passion about technology and want to pursue this. So this is great. Similarly, there are scholarships for other groups, so it's not just women, but this is the one I applied to and it helped me. Now, when it comes to support groups, there are some societies like Women in Science and Engineering or Women in Tech. at the department I was a part of, there wasn't a society. So this is why I decided to create the Women in Computing group. And that's the advice I keep giving to people, that if there's no group that does what you would like to see, just create it. Just get out there. There's nothing stopping you. And the other thing I learned is, when you create something, it's just you. But when the second person comes to that, whatever it is you're creating, then it's a community. So it's the second, attracting just one extra person that it takes, and then it becomes a community and it can spread. So I always encourage people to create a community, because it can be life-changing, as I said.
That's very, very impressive and good. And the other question that I had was, especially on your journey, entrepreneurship is another thing where we find, like, the graduates, right? One is the academic track, where, like, you become a research associate, research scholar, and things like that. The other is like coding, architecture, development is another career. Then the let's take another branching, which is becoming an entrepreneur, women entrepreneurs. And now you have been voted as a Women of the Year in 2018, which is international recognition. Congratulations on that. Hope it's not too late congratulating after like 2 years. And also, you have been awarded Women in Science and Engineering. It's an Influence Award, right? Is it called?
Yeah, Influence Award.
Yeah. So
You.
why don't you touch on that? And because this is mainly touching on empowering the women in the tech community. So I just wanted to connect these dots. Maybe you can do it better.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. So as I said, I created a couple of communities, and when you create a couple of communities, you plant the seed for great things to happen. So for example, I was running the Women in Computing group, and as part of it, we did a hackathon where we invited a lot of women and allies to take part in it. And as part of this hackathon, a lot of people met with each other and they formed alliances of many kinds. For example, some people became founders together. Some people created groups on their own. Some people became best friends, and so on. So when you plant the seed, as I say, you just don't know how far something can go. So sometimes there is an exponential impact that you can have. And a lot of these people, some of them remembered me and they nominated me for an award, and they said, hey, she influenced us to do this because she created this group. And it's very humbling that they did that. So I really appreciate it. To your point about when you graduate, you can either go the software engineering route or the researcher route. I'm going to argue that if you study a tech subject, it's not black or white. You may have a degree in computer science and you may end up doing something completely different, like being biology, or you can be a tech entrepreneur, or just not code ever again in your life. And that's what I didn't know when I were to choose what to study, because I thought, okay, I'm going to do a PhD. It means I'm becoming an academic. No. You do something and this opens more doors, and this lets you meet more people, and more people can mentor you and you can explore new fields. And that's how I explored innovation and entrepreneurship and product management. And it was just great. And I'm so happy I did.
Yeah, that's very impressive, because that's a pretty common question. Is most of it happens for everybody, a stumbling block. It's like, after my high school, then I go to graduation, I pick something. Some people go as undecided, and then they finish the degree. The 4 years fly very quickly, and then what am I doing? What am I going to do? Like some people, oh yeah, I want to become a lawyer. I want to become a data science person. So I wanted to really start my own company. So the question is, so that's where the mentorship, the previous question, we are now connecting it, and see, just ask for help, reach out for help, right? And form these support groups and networking forums. And you're really a visionary to create such things and make it available. And then you mentioned about scholarship about Google. Can you repeat that for me? What's that? You said Google?
Yeah, it's called the Tech Makers.
Google Tech Makers?
Google Tech Makers. Yeah, people should look it up. It's fantastic. They bring together people from either EMEA or APAC or North America, and they just hand out scholarships to people that have demonstrated passion about computer science, and they support them in their journey. And it's great because as part of this program, you get to meet people that work in the company, and they mentor you, and it's just a domino effect, right? So it's really great.
Yeah. So is this the one here? I'm just putting it. Google Tech Makers. Is this the one?
Yes, but with no space. So it's technical.
Okay. Okay. It's no space. Oh, okay. That we need to correct that. All right. Okay. So, all right. So, dear listeners, we are talking to Dr. Marily Nika, and the topic is empowering women in tech community. And this is Srinivasa for itsdiff Academy. You can check our past shows on Google, Apple, and Spotify, and tune in on all kinds of podcasting media by itsdiff, ITSDIFF, short for It's Different News, Views, and Music Show. So thank you for tuning in today, and you can subscribe. It's free. All right, just to learn, share, and bring such great folks like Dr. Manley to our show and learn from their journey, career journey, and lifelong learnings, and also they're giving back to community. So that's the main thing of our show, is to share, we care from our learnings. So that's very good. And then in terms of the diversity, let's talk about the generally what's in the industry that's happening, because as always diversity and equality is about a common thing that people talk about. Then there is no equal opportunities not being provided and things like that. So I wanted to talk about especially equality and diversity in a women's world. What is your perspective, and how do we improve such thing? And one is from an organization standpoint, and another one is from an individual standpoint, because you can always complain, oh, that's like this is like that, it's not happy, the life is not fair. But on the other hand, what can you do? It's like President Kennedy said, right? What have you done to the country? Rather than you asking about what the country did to you, some of that sort, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. What I believe is, when it comes specifically to what I do, which is product management, is that if you don't have diverse mindsets building the product, then the products are not going to be diverse enough to reach enough of the users, right? So it's very, very important to have a diverse mindset and diversity in the workplace, so that you can actually create more impactful products. And that's something I'm very, very passionate about. Now, when it comes to organizations and what they do about this is, they have a lot of programs like the scholarship I mentioned, and I'm not just talking about Google, I'm talking about all the companies. There are programs, they support, they fund and sponsor a lot of conferences that are about women in tech. There are huge conferences like the Grace Hopper Conference, which is an annual conference. It happens in the US. It has from 12,000 to 20,000 attendees every year. This year is going to be virtual. But what's important about these sort of initiatives is that they raise awareness, and they tell people, like, hey, this is an issue and we should not ignore it. We should make sure that the gap between the genders in the organizations is actually bridged. So they're not just aimed to women, they're also aimed to men, because if men are not aware enough about this issue and the biases, then
Exactly.
No change is going to happen. So this is what happens. And yeah, as I said, I'm very passionate about these subject, and I give some talks to explain exactly what the issue is and what the imposter syndrome is, and I'm just trying to help raise awareness.
Yeah, no, that is very important, as you said, right? And also as an individual, right? Okay, now you feel like, say, as a woman, feel that, oh my God, life is not fair. So what would you advise to motivate such individual and say, hey, look out for this, join this, and things like that? Is there anything that you have not already spoken about?
Yeah, I was thinking one day, what sort of advice would I give to younger me when I was 18, just trying to figure out what's happening? And I think what I would tell me is that I should not be afraid to fail, because we've all failed. I've failed, everyone has failed. And you need to stand up again and learn from your mistakes, or realize what went wrong, and maybe what went wrong was actually great because it wasn't meant to be, or whatever that was. That's number one. And the second thing is, I tell people that hope is not a strategy. And I'm saying this because sometimes you may just sit home on your computer and just hope that something amazing will happen to you, but you need to go after it. So you need to apply for a scholarship, you need to apply for a job, you need to get out there and go on LinkedIn and reach out to people and talk to them. You shouldn't just wait for the magical tiara to come to you. So this is the tiara effect. When you work very, very hard without advocating for yourself and putting yourself out there, you are just waiting for that magical tiara to appear, but it's not. So hope is not a strategy. You should actually plan your steps and have a goal in mind and hope to get there.
Good advice. Good advice there. Okay. So now one of the things that while I was researching on women in technology, there was I wanted to credit, there was a VentureBeat article that I found. It was very interesting about the need for women in technology is gender diversity can boost profits, and they say it could lead to increase in productivity. And they also goes to say their observation and research, as I understood, I'm just giving it again. I want to throw a disclaimer. This is my understanding purely.
Okay.
Women in technology can directly influence achieving business goals. So that's kind of what their research says. And also one more thing is the employee engagement and satisfaction in generally where it is reflected by the quality of the product or service. Gender diversity is very particularly important. I mean, this last quote is from Morgan Stanley. Like so that means a lot of people, they have understood the importance and they are looking towards for diversity and equality, and particularly on the women right perspective. And they just say not just in technology field, but also in financial, retail, leisure, and business services and whatnot. So they say that it's their finding and research. So just wanted to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree that, as I said before, the more diverse the workforce is, the better the product and the end product you will create. So I definitely agree with that, right? So yeah, I don't think there's much more to say other than it's very, very important to keep supporting equality. And yeah.
And pretty much this one is very interesting from McKinsey. Again, I would to credit them. There's a management consulting firm that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity, they were 15% more likely to have higher financial returns than the national industry medians.
Okay, that's an interesting topic. I'd love to read the article.
Yeah, and of course there's more. I mean, it is very interesting. See, I mean, ultimately it goes like equal opportunity, right? That I mean, you've seen all the employers, they're coming out, and of course they don't fail to mention and create awareness and say, hey, we are an equal opportunity employer. And then pretty much while they ask about all your demography, the information and other personal profile information and things like that, but they don't fail to mention about the equal opportunity, and which is encouraging, isn't it? That's what I'm saying. See, one is the environment needs to support you. One, as the environmental factors, you need to have a very good support system. And the third one is, as an individual, you need to be open up to receive. And as you very rightly said, Dr. Marily, that that is, you need to also do something on your side.
Yeah. And the other thing that's important is if you see something that makes you uncomfortable in any way, you should have a means to call it out in your organization so that change can happen, because some things are just not tolerated, right? So in order to change, you need to speak up and you need to raise awareness and, of course, have a support group like you mentioned. So all these things are very, very important and crucial.
Yeah. And I have a few questions on HBAP, but before I get to, I want to ask you about your TED Talks.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. So how was the experience on the TED Talk? And yeah.
All right, let's see. The experience is scary, but it's very, very rewarding. It's really great. So how this worked is someone reached out to me and they said, hey, would you like to speak to this big conference? And I said, yes, this would be great. So I needed to submit a proposal, and then I needed to do 2 auditions actually. So I had to actually present what it was that I wanted to talk about. and just to make sure that my topic would actually match the theme of the organization. I've done it 3 times. All 3 times had different topics, and I made sure to tailor my proposal to what these themes had. The biggest one was TEDx Athens. I think it was 1,500 people, which was it was great. It was very, very scary. I talked about my PhD, which was, again, how you apply epidemiological models in order to predict virality. And it was an interesting topic. It was different. So I had to make sure that the slides were interesting enough, not too academic, and that they would be appealing, not some boring content, right? So there were quite a lot of iterations where I walked people through my presentation. When it comes to the actual day itself, now that's the scary part, because you go on this stage and there are so many lights on you, and the audience is dark because everything is black. So I couldn't really see anyone. All I could see is lights, which was probably for the best because there were so many people. And the other thing that I remember is that I had the microphone here, and it was just so quiet. So the microphone was here, and all I could hear was myself breathing. So it was very, very scary. And yeah, but then you've practiced it so many times, so you start talking, and then by the time you're at the first joke and people laugh at you, you're like, okay, I relax, and then you enjoy it. So the important thing about this sort of thing is to know your speech inside out, because TEDx doesn't allow you to have any speaker notes or to hold any cards. And number 2, to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, then people are going to know you're not enjoying it, and that's not good.
Yeah, one of the reason why I asked that question is you're so amazing in front of the audience.
Thank
You're
you.
able to communicate very well, and that's one of the key takeaways for the folks who are listening to this show. And then the ability to express yourself well. And I've seen you in some of the classroom sessions as well as in your TED Talks I watched. It came out super well. I mean, that's another thing, is a motivating factor for all of us. I mean, it doesn't matter which gender, right? So that's very interesting. And so one has to really prepare for all of this and be bold to put forth your thoughts and expressions in a communicating way to reach the audience. So that's really impressive. So
yeah, thank you. And it's actually called storytelling, because when I was starting my career, I was trying to figure out, okay, what is this skill that I don't have that everyone else seems to have? And again, someone was mentoring me, and they said, well, this is storytelling and you can improve it. There are classes online. So if you look up storytelling classes, sometimes you can have group sessions or you can have one-on-one session. I had a couple of sessions by some people that were improvisation actors. So these are actors that go in theaters and just improvise there and then. It's amazing. So I strongly recommend this sort of sessions for people that want to improve their storytelling skills.
Exactly. And also the public speaking skills in general, right? That's
Yes.
very important. All right. So now let's talk about HBAP. So thank you. It's really great to know you.
Yeah, I am a teaching fellow at the HBAP, and it's honestly one of the best experiences in my life. And you know how it happened? Someone reached out to me on LinkedIn. So I jumped right onto the opportunity. I got to meet some the faculty team members, and I've been with HBAP since 2018, and it's just been great. And I get to meet amazing people like you that go off and do amazing things after the class, like this show. And it's just a wonderful community that has been created.
Yeah, and appreciate it. And in fact, it's we are fortunate to have you. And then I loved your product management class. Let's talk about a little bit on product management. So how is it going for you, especially in teaching those as a curriculum on product management? So what are some of the key things that you would advise for folks who are interested in product management? Because we are talking about how can one excel, and product management and project management, the two interesting things where I'm passionate about project management, and I wanted to hear more on product management from you. Yeah, good.
Okay, that sounds good. So first of all, and this goes back to me, I didn't know what product management was. I just knew I was interested in it. So let's start there. That was about 8 years ago when I first started taking up a couple of classes on it. And just for folks to have the background, and I'm happy you touched on it, project management and product management is crucial. So the product manager defines what needs to be built, whereas the project manager is actually defining the how we need to do that. So they focus more on the planning and their resources and the day-to-day work and the timelines, whereas the product manager focuses on the strategy and the roadmap and the vision, and they make sure to communicate that with to everyone so that everyone gets on board, so that they can actually be inspired to build this product. I loved the course. It was great. We had, I think it was 150 people on each session, and the feedback was great. So I'm very, very happy that it was perceived in such positive manner. The thing with product management is that a lot of people think they know what it is, and that's what I thought as well, until they actually take a course and they realize, the challenges and how vague it can be, and how coming up with ideas and building them from scratch, how can be challenging. I think the key takeaway for product management is that you need to put the user first, and you need to advocate for the user within the startup you're working at or within the company you're working at. And once you realize that and you just think about the user, things will come into place. But the advice I give to people that actually want to break into product management is that just step back, read, and understand the role before you start applying to it, so that you can know exactly what it is. And I'm actually writing a book on it, which is really great. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, if you're not, I'll provide more information on that.
Yeah, definitely, and we can. Can you share your information as well, right? How can people find you on LinkedIn?
Yes, it's just first name, last name on LinkedIn. I am always happy to be connected to people.
So Nika, Marily Nika. So I'll just put it as this is on LinkedIn, right? Okay, I'll put it right now, on the fly right now.
Thank you.
All right, here, let's do it here, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, good. Thank you. That's very nice. So let's just summarize our chat right now. And thank you so much for your time for itsdiff Academy. So again, dear listeners, the topic has been empowering the women in tech community, and also that started with the journey of Dr. Marily Nika, and then her doctorate, plus the interest in computer science, right? And also some of the support groups that she has started, and also some educative items like how to reach for mentorship and how to look out for support groups and form a strong network. Is that fair to say? And also,
I actually don't want to call them support groups, because they're not. They are communities. And I always encourage people to start communities about their passions that bring people together. So communities is the key and the word here.
Okay, community is like form a strong community-oriented approach to in terms of Excel and everything. So that's very good. Okay, are there anything that we missed? Is there any final thoughts from you for our audience?
Yeah, one more thing, which is, I know that some people may be shy sometimes to get out there and reach out to people and learn and just pursue their dreams. Once you get over being shy and you start writing your thoughts on LinkedIn, or just create a blog, or just tweet about your thoughts, or reach out bluntly to people on LinkedIn with, of course, with a reason, good things happen. So I encourage people to get over the imposter syndrome and just get out of their comfort zone, because great things can happen.
So it's more like expressing yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really great. Just get out of the comfort zone and challenge yourself.
Very good, and I love the way you expressed on the community mantra. So that's very good. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure talking to you, and we can definitely meet in other times with a different topic. And thanks for giving amongst your busy schedule, giving us time for itsdiff Academy. And it was a great pleasure in talking to you, Dr. Marily Nika.
Thank you, Sri. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much again. See you again.
Thank you. Thanks.